All right, folks, let's go ahead and grab your seat. Let's everybody grab their seat. Get them slowly sitting. All right, we're going to move on to the program. Talk now about, what to do if you can't recover the food. We talked about composting, and now we're going to move into anaerobic digestion as a food waste solution. So with that, I am going to turn it over to Patrick Serfass, with the Executive Director for the American Biogas Council. I've had Patrick speak at a couple of our events over the years. We also run the Waste Conversion Technology Conference, and so I love this aspect of it, being able to take something and do something with it, right? Continue to close that loop. So Patrick, I'm going to turn it over to you, sir. Real quickly, on your desk, we handed out evaluation forms. Please take a few minutes before you all leave here today and complete them and drop them off at the front desk for us. Greatly appreciated. With that, Patrick, all yours, sir.
Thanks, Gene. Hi, everybody. Man. So I sit between now and you guys getting out of here. And we're after lunch. I'm so glad. I saw the coffee over there being heavily taken advantage of, so that's all good. I'm going to try to bounce around a little bit. I'm assuming that some of you are familiar with anaerobic digestion, and so I'm going to get into a little bit of technical stuff. I'm going to assume that some of you are not familiar with it, so we're going to do a little bit of one-on-one. I've got a lot of pictures. And my hope is that you will leave here with a bunch of ideas of things you can do. The blessing and the curse of biogas systems is the curse is that none of them are the same. The blessing is that because each one is customized for whatever local organic stream is available and whatever local products are needed. So here's who we are. We're the trade association for the biogas industry, a couple hundred companies, a couple thousand people. We cover everything that has to do with biogas across the country, and we're the only ones who do that. This is the biogas industry in the US. We have 2,500 operational systems. That means there are biogas systems in all 50 states. The top blue bar here is the operational one split into different categories. So I'll show you in a minute, but most of the time your biogas system is going to use the biogas to generate renewable natural gas, that's RNG, or it's going to generate renewable electricity. If you split them up by feedstock, you can see how many are located in different places. The food scrap systems, which I'm mostly focusing on here, are food scrap only, but what I will show you is that a lot of systems on farms and wastewater facilities are also taking in food waste. We only have a couple landfills that also have digesters on site for the landfill, but it does happen, and we consider landfills to be biogas systems too. I'll explain a little bit about that. But the potential is absolutely massive. When you look at the map, by the way, is all the operating systems. When you look at the potential, we've only built out 10% of the industry. And so Charlie was talking about this earlier, in what I think he said 3% food waste recycled in Florida or something like that. Is that right? All right, someone said that. I mean, we're 10% of all the biogas systems that can be built. There's tons and tons of material, literally. All right, so here's my first pictures. This is one for those of you that are familiar with New England. Maybe you've been here. This is a Whole Foods, the back house of the Whole Foods. Those bananas look like they should be eaten to me, but I think they were throwing on a demonstration for us. The table, so this is the back of a grocery store. The table there has a big, you can just barely see it off the end. It just has a big garbage disposal, like a commercial, huge, it's like this big around below the table there. And InSinkErator makes it just like the ones in a lot of your homes. And it goes into this tank that's in the back, which they painted like a Holstein. They even, the outlet even is pink like an udder. They had a lot of fun with that. And the fun story with this, before we even get to the biogas system, is that they were putting all the food waste, including the spoiled milk, into those big bins, the haulers there just to the right. And if you can tell from how stained the parking lot is, and there are all cars right behind all these people, this is the middle of the parking lot. You can imagine nice hot Massachusetts summer, maybe not as hot as down here, spoiled milk coming out of those bins, and they had a vector, they had a lot of rodents around there. So the grocery store by itself, before you even get into the renewable energy and the recycling, they were like, oh, we don't have rats running through our parking lot anymore. How awesome is that? So, lots of benefits. And then that gets picked up by a truck comes up and hooks up to the udder and hauls it away. This is a pretty small biogas system. What you're looking at here is a utility building to the left, the big digester with the domed roof. Inside that hard roof is a flexible bladder that goes up and down. The biogas burps to the top, and it gets collected at the top, and then it actually goes to the utility building where there's a big engine in there, like a big, 16-cylinder engine like you'd have on a ship that's generating electricity. The silo-looking thing in the beginning here is like a pre-tank. We call it a hydrolysis tank, but it's a way that when you get a load of all of one thing, you don't necessarily, just like if you ate 3-4 bags of jelly beans, your body would not be happy with you putting all of one thing in your body all at once. The digester is a living, breathing system with microbes. It doesn't like all of one thing either. So you put everything into this pre-tank that just kind of mixes it up a little bit, so what goes to the digester doesn't upset the microbes quite as much. Here's where it all starts. And you may think, because we're the American Biogas Council, that we care about building a lot of biogas systems. We do, but what we care more about is this, recycling all the organic material in the U.S. It really is why we exist. I'm going to tie this into composting here real quick, but you can see, you guys know this already. You have tons and tons, millions of tons of organic material. This is why there's an opportunity for the industry. All right, so we do not believe in biogas or compost. We believe in biogas and compost. Like I told you, every biogas system is customized because the amount of organic material that you have in a place is always different. And what you can do with the biogas and the digested material, so your solids, your liquids, and your gas, that changes too. And sometimes you're going to want to turn your digested material, your material that comes through the biogas system, into compost, and that's where they really work together. If you look at the numbers on here, you'll notice that they're kind of similar. What I tried to do is give ranges from the Compost Council, which is our, the trade association for the compost industry, and then our numbers there. And what you'll see is the ranges, the low end, 20 to 30 tons per year, and the high end, 400,000 to 300,000 tons per year. They're actually pretty similar, but I will tell you in practice that is misleading. Those are the right numbers because those numbers are true. But what you'll generally find is that biogas systems are really, really good, especially when you look at the economics, on handling large volumes of material. So commercial food waste, industrial food waste, large cities, biogas systems are going to be where you want to start first. Smaller volumes of material, you're generally going to start with composting systems first, and then there's this whole middle ground in the middle where we would hope that you digest the material first in a biogas system and then compost the digested material at the end. So you're still left with compost, but you took the energy out of it. The nutrients don't change. You just took the energy out of it, some carbon and hydrogen, and you still get all the nutrients and all the good soil amendments on the end. Here's where we are when we look at just post-consumer food waste. We were talking a lot earlier about pre-consumer food waste. This is all post-consumer food waste. A lot of EPA data in here, and then some other things we put together. We estimated all the organic material that's being composted in the U.S. and then added everything, all the food waste, the post-consumer food waste that's going into biogas systems. We think we're recycling about 14% of all the post-consumer food waste. The number is much tinier when you look at all food waste, but 14% for compost and biogas together. All right, so I'm back up a little bit here. So biogas system is a tank, and in that tank you have microbes. The microbes are already present in whatever you put into the tank to begin with. We just create a nice warm environment where those microbes that are already present can reproduce. And the more microbes you have, the more organic material you can eat up, and those microbes literally burp out biogas, which is a mixture of carbon dioxide and methane. We mostly care about the methane, although if you want to get into the cool markets for carbon dioxide, that is a new and growing area, which is really exciting. So we're not always wasting the carbon dioxide either, but we generally want the methane out of that. We care most about the biogas because that's where we're making the money from. I would love to tell you that the situation was different and we made the most money from selling the digested material, just like I'm sure others would love to be selling compost for lots and lots of money. But that's not the way it works right now. Right now, you can get paid a lot more for the biogas. So we generally talk about the gas product, and it's generally going to renewable natural gas or electricity. For the feedstock coming in, we can take in any organic material, anything that was once living, but generally non-woody waste. There are a few biogas systems, and actually the ones that are best for food waste are the ones that are also good for handling woody waste, where instead of having a tank that has like a soup mixture in it, you instead have a garage with a pile. It looks like a pile of mulch, because you use a lot of woody material, a pile of mulch in a sealed, airtight garage. And then you spray down the liquid that's in because the food waste, once you grind it up, is mostly liquid. You spray that down from the top, it percolates, all the microbes are in the wood chips, just like compost, except for you're doing this in a non-oxygen environment. It's the same thing. So generally non-woody waste, except for with food waste, sometimes you can do the woody waste stuff too. Here is, I focused on commercial food scraps just to give you some pictures and some examples. The reason why I focused on commercial food scraps is because unless you're industrial, the pre-consumer food waste is definitely the most advantageous because of the contamination. We can handle contamination. There's all kinds of technology out there to handle the contamination. Technically, and with technology, it is not a problem, but it costs more. So everyone would love to avoid spending the capital cost to empty all those cans, cut up all that. I think that's nacho cheese sauce. And fun fact, if anyone knows where the top right, we'll see how we're doing on time at the end here, but the one from the top right is actually local here, but it's not operating anymore. So here's what you generally end up with digestate if you're not familiar. Looks a lot like compost, but sometimes it's very liquidy. Well, it's always liquidy, but lots of times you separate the liquid out from the solids. And then if you dry it, you get what you see on the left there. And as it just so happens, the picture with the person's hand in the middle over the food waste bin, that was also local from this closed facility here, not too far from here. And on the top right, you can see they're now a lot older now, but you can see my two boys and my friend's pickup truck. The DC Water wastewater facility has one of the largest biogas systems in the world. And I go and I get a load or two of digestate from the local biogas plant and use it to top dress my grass. I live on Capitol Hill, so I have a postage stamp of a lawn, but it is greener than anything else in the neighborhood, and I'm very proud of that. And we'll talk to anyone about it if they ask me. Here, we've got some black gold here, I think, too. No, what do we have? We've got black cow and Titan gold. So you can see the one on the bottom left is digestate from UW Oshkosh up in Wisconsin that has been composted after it's been digested. The bloom on the upper left, that's the DC product. And you can actually see my son and a friend drop. We rehabbed a field. We got 3 semi-truck loads full of digestate to rehab the elementary school field that our kids went to. That was fun. We had 70 volunteers come out, and everyone's shoveling around digestate, and lots of good education there. So I just want to remind you that while we usually talk about the benefits of biogas and the renewable energy, and here we're probably talking a lot more about the soil amendment products, there are so many different reasons to build these systems, and they really get integrated with wherever you are. The pathogen destruction, the watershed protection to keep nutrients from going off into the waterways, boosted crop yields if you are growing crops and you're in agriculture. There's so many good things that you can do with the biogas systems. All right, let's look at a little data. I'm going to start with some national data and then give you some food waste data with a little bit of Florida-specific data sprinkled in. So this is the growth of the biogas industry over the last couple of years. We are growing at about 100 new projects a year. I think that makes it about 5.5% growth last year for new systems. And if you break up all those 2,500 systems by feedstock, you will see that the standalone food waste systems, they are growing. We grew at just a little bit less than 3% last year in that sector. But the agriculture sector is the one that's growing the fastest. And I will remind you that agriculture and wastewater often add food waste to their systems. So the growth of those systems are important too. Food waste, I mean, it definitely has the biggest room for improvement here. This is capital invested. So this is total capital investment. It totals up to about $40 billion of equipment that is operational across the U.S., about $2.25 billion of food waste systems across the U.S. And if you look at how much they cost per unit of, well, just if you, so I'm gonna cheat and tell you that there were 3 food waste systems that came online last year. This is the $3 billion of new systems that came online just last year. So $3 billion, $130 million. So what is that, about $45 million a project on average. My guess is a couple of those were very small and one of them was really large, but $130 million for 3 projects just last year's, those 3 systems that happened to come online. All right, and then let's look just at food waste. So this is your 113 standalone food waste systems. You've got about half of them are post-consumer, and then we've got a bunch that are pre-consumer, and then a bunch that are beverage and distillery waste. So the one standalone food waste system that Florida has, you guys only have one right now, is, let's see, oh, I don't have it on this slide. I've got it on this one. So this is all the food waste only systems, and this is how much biogas is produced in each state. So California leading the charge, it usually does. Lots of people, lots of animals, lots of organic waste, lots of food waste, especially because of all the people. Florida's tied for 20th. There's a bunch of states that only have one standalone food waste system. Florida's one of them. The one that we know about is at an Anheuser-Busch processing plant. They are using their spent distillers' grains and other wastewater, which they have to clean up anyway, and they're taking the solids out of that wastewater, and they're producing about 20% of the plant's power needs. So there's your local story. Wish I had more. Let's work on that. This is your reminder for why we like food waste so much. So this is how much biogas is produced for different kinds of organic material. And if you look at the bottom, you'll see manure, cow manure, pig manure, chicken manure. And in the middle, you'll see like some brewery waste and some like green, some grass and like yard waste stuff. And at the top, you see food waste. And if you think about it, food waste versus manure, that's all the same stuff. It's just that the manure's already had some of the energy taken out of it by the person or the animal. So food waste, not having any energy taken out of it, is going to produce a lot more biogas. And so the rough rule of thumb, because we usually don't build standalone food waste systems, even though you've seen we've got over 100 of them, it works really well when you're operating the facility if you add food waste to wastewater manure, because the pH of the manure and the wastewater and the way that the microbes interact and the way that they are happiest works best when you mix that with food waste. And if you add just 10% of your material as food waste to like a wastewater plant or a manure plant, you're going to double your biogas yield. And that is huge, because that basically means doubling your revenue. Assuming that you're getting most of your revenue from selling your biogas, add 10% food waste, double your biogas yield, that's a big deal. Now, the catch is that you have to add extra equipment to be able to take in the food waste, to be able to handle it, so your capital costs do go up. But this is a growing trend in the industry. All right, so story time. Gene asked me to do a few case studies here. I'm going to start with a generic example here, and some of this will probably be obvious to you. So you start with depackaging, right? The material comes in, and then once you depackage it, you have a mostly liquid stream. And so that's a good place. You're mixing that and kind of trying to homogenize that material as much as possible. Let's say you got a whole bunch of nacho cheese, and then you got a bunch of French onion dip and things like that. You want to mix that all together. And then when it's liquid, that's a good place to have your liquid food waste come in. I'll show you some examples of some companies that are processing the food waste outside of a biogas system just to handle it, to deliver a homogeneous slurry to the biogas system. Then you've normally got a grinder in there for like your pineapples and your watermelons and other kind of citrus that need to be ground up a little bit more. And then you generally have 2 pre-tanks there where you're handling different kinds of material coming in, and then you meter it together. You don't put equal parts into the digester. And then after you digest it and you take all the energy out and you take all the gas out, this example, we say that we're making renewable energy from it. Then you treat the digested material, and usually you are taking the liquid out because liquid is heavy. Heavy is expensive to move. So if you take the liquid out, then it's easier to move the solids and land apply them or sell them as any kind of product, and you can discharge the liquid, hopefully on the land because it does have a lot of phosphorus and nitrogen in it too, or you might really, really clean it up, so clean that you could put it into a waterway. It kind of depends on where you are. So here's a wastewater plant in New Jersey. This wastewater plant really needed to take in food waste because they are, I don't know if you guys know this, but when you are a food waste processor and you are around a smaller, medium-sized town, you have wastewater. And generally that wastewater gets sent to the local wastewater plant, and you have to pay them to take it. But in a smaller, medium-sized town, that wastewater plant's probably not very big. They may not be able to handle your wastewater. They may not have enough equipment. So you have to handle it anyway, or you can contribute to the local wastewater plant and get them to upgrade their facility so they can take in food waste. And that's what the Village of Ridgewood did in New Jersey, is they upgraded the wastewater plant, but they didn't want to take any of the financial risk. So they brought in this company called Natural Utilities, and they said, hey, we really need to do this, but our customers and our town board is really going to have a fit if we have to spend all this money to upgrade the system. I know we're going to make the money back, but we don't want to even try to get approval for the capital costs. Can you, private company, just do it for us? We'll give you the land, and we'll take your leftover liquid from you. But if you take all the risk, you can take all the reward, and then we can provide a service to the community. So a public-private partnership there for that one. And they got solar on there as well, which is great. This one is a pig farm in Ohio, and they are around tons of food processors as well. This was the best model for there. So Mars is making dog food. Bob Evans, your sausage, biscuits, and gravy. Coca-Cola, lots of wastewater from beverage manufacturing. Tyson's, animal processing. Don't forget, when you process animals, you also have to clean all the equipment, and all that wastewater from cleaning all the equipment, that has to go somewhere too. So luckily, it's got lots of energy in it, so send it to the biogas system too. So that's what they're doing here, and then they're reusing the digestate on their fields and their poplar grove, which is what they happen to have around this farm. Here's a small farm in Massachusetts. You're starting to see a theme here, a bunch of big industrial food processors nearby, and adding that. This one in particular also adds in fats, oils, and grease. So this is a really important one. You can tell me if I'm wrong about this, Charlie, but I think it's a lot harder for compost systems to take fats, oils, and grease. So it's really, really good for biogas systems because it's kind of all contained. It also makes it less stinky. And it's got tons of energy. I mean, it's oil, right? Like, got tons of energy in it. So put that in the biogas system, mix it up with all the other stuff, make some energy from it, keep the odors out of the landfill, all that kind of good stuff. This is what's happening in your bigger cities. So this is a common theme between that Waste Management is doing, or WM now. They have a system called their core system, and they have these facilities in Boston, New York, and in LA County. And what they do is they have one facility, their core facility, takes in all the food waste. And it's basically, we were talking about transfer stations, and I was explaining how I have a generic view of what a transfer station is, which is a place where you can take in all kinds of materials, process it, and make sure they go to their different places. So that's what core does. They take in, it's at their landfill actually, but they take in the food waste just into core, and then they grind it all up and they create the slurry, and then they deliver the slurry to different places, usually to these biogas systems, and each one of these happens to be at a wastewater plant too. So you can see the truck on the bottom there taking the processed material. I think there's a loader going into one of the depack and the grinder, and then you can see the truck taking the finished product to the biogas system. I believe that is Boston. Here's South San Francisco. Okay, remember I told you some of the food waste systems that can take in woody waste are like garages? This is your garage style digester. So each one of these doors opens on a big hinge, but like once every 20 days. Normally the material stays in there for 20 days, so you keep it sealed. And basically think of it as like a garage with holes in the floor and a sprinkler system on the top and a big pile of mulch. The biofilter, the mulch that you can see there is the biofilter. That's actually not it, but it does look a lot like that. And you deliver all this material in there, and then you take all the food waste that's ground up, and that was in a big tank, and it gets pumped in and gets sprinkled in the roofs of all those garages. And then it comes down through the mulch, and it gets sucked up, or it goes in, doesn't get sucked up, but it goes into the perforated floor, and then it comes through those tranches and then it gets pulled back up and comes back through the sprinkler system. And it goes around and around and around until you stop making biogas. The biogas comes to the top and it gets collected into, it doesn't even look like it, but there's a big gas collection system there in the top. And then the gas goes to fill up their garbage trucks. And the fun thing, this is a pretty small project. It's 120 or about 100, or 11,000 tons a year. It's a really, really small facility, but they like to say that the load of food waste that they pick up fuels tomorrow's pickups. And then here's on the really, really small scale. So this is a containerized system. Impact Bioenergy recently rebranded as Chomp. And what they do is they take a shipping container and they put a very small scale digester. Let's see, do I have it? How small they go? 24 tons a year. So what is that? 2 tons a month. And that's at the high end. They can go lower than that. It ends up being basically like a few 5-gallon pails a day is how much this can handle. And so they started out in Seattle at a restaurant, at a brewery, and they put one of the containers back. It took up 2 parking spaces in the back of the parking lot, and they just hand-delivered some of the Sprent brewery waste from the brewery back in there. Plus, there's a restaurant there, and so the food waste, and just every time in the back of the house, you fill up the 5-gallon bucket, someone walks it out to the container, dumps it in, it gets ground up, and they turn it into biogas, and then it returns hot water and electricity back to the restaurant. And this one's really fun too. Everyone has a lot of fun branding their products. The bucket at the bottom there, obviously that's a tomato plant, but it's like a brown liquid going in there. They market that as Brew Dew. So it's at a brewery, and this is the liquid digestate coming out of the biogas system. And do I have a picture? Oh, I had a picture on one of the earlier slides, if you noticed. But they actually bottle it up in growlers and then sell it at the brewery. So make sure you don't drink that one, but great for your plants at home and in your garden. All right, and then if you want to see us later this year, we have 2 huge events. We've got about 2,500 people coming to Denver in a couple weeks. We're really excited about that. It's going to be our biggest event ever. And I've got a smaller one in St. Louis at the Four Seasons at the end of October. That's where we'll be. So that's all I got. Thanks, everyone. Any questions?
All right, start Ann, and I'll come to you, Lori.
Remember, I'm a farmer, so this is a farm-based question.
I like farmers.
I know that farmers used to use biosolids to help fertilize and have found that the pathogens are not being broken down by municipal wastewater systems appropriately, and those pathogens are now being uptake with food, and it's a huge health concern. Does this process reduce those pathogens more so than the regular wastewater process?
Most of the times, yes. Since you're asking a very specific question, I want to remind you, there are no absolutes in the world, so it's never 100% yes. But yeah, this is a PFRP process for the reduction of pathogens. It does depend though. So in wastewater plants, you generally have primary, secondary, and then sometimes tertiary treatment. Only the largest plants really go to tertiary. Lots of small ones only have primary. Most plants, there's about 16,000 wastewater facilities across the US. You have a very wide variety of pathogen kill in a natural wastewater system. And then when you take the sludge or those biosolids that you're pulling out of the wastewater so you can put clean water back into the river, you have different kinds of biogas systems. So if you really, really want to kill the pathogens, you do need that high temperature. So you do need to do either a high temperature dry of your digestate. So the digestate comes out of the system. It looks like a liquid. You squeeze out or you centrifuge out the liquid, and now it's got 30 to 40% moisture. And then you might use some of the biogas in a boiler to dry it further, and that may be enough heat to fully kill the pathogens. Or you can do something on the front end. This is what DC Water does and where I'm from. They have a system called thermal hydrolysis, or a CAMBI system. It's basically like a pressure cooker. So they have, they basically put all the material coming into these vats, these tanks, and they ramp up the temperature and ramp up the pressure, and then they drop the pressure. And when they drop the pressure really quickly, it bursts all the cellular walls of the material that's in there. And the high temperature kills the pathogens. But what that does is it breaks up the material physically, like the cellular walls are literally broken. And when you do that, it digests faster. So they went from having these multi-million gallon tanks and cut it in half by pressure cooking the material ahead of time, and they're Class A. They have a full pathogen kill. So that's why when I get the truckload, I know there's a little bit of odor to it, but I know it's safe because I know it went through this system. So there's different things that you can do. Natural digestion is going to kill 99% of your pathogens, but 99% may not be good enough for you. Maybe you need 99.999, and then you need something else on top of it. Yeah.
I think you somewhat answered my question. So it really depends on, first of all, the feedstocks coming in, but the digestate on the back end, is it ever tested before it's used for various uses? Obviously, every state's regulations are a little different, but what have you seen as far as what's showing up in the digestate, how it's tested before use?
So is the digestate tested? Yes. Is it always tested? No. Is it tested most of the time? No. It really depends on who's using it. If the farmer who put the manure and maybe the food waste in is using their own digestate, they're very, very, very unlikely to be testing it because they know what went in there, with the exception of the food waste coming in. And depending upon how tightly they monitor truckloads of material coming in and how well they might know the drivers personally that are coming to their farm. Lots of times farmers will have contracts with very specific, they usually won't take in food waste from lots of different places. That's really common in Europe, but it's not common here yet because it's just more complex. Everyone's kind of trying to stay simple and say hey, I'd really like 2 or 3 people with a lot of food waste to come deliver their stuff to me. That would be easier to manage than 50 people. The American Biogas Council does have, as we talked about earlier briefly, we do have a digestate certification program that is specifically designed to give you that assurance if you want it. So if you want it, you can take your digestate at a certain interval and send it to a third-party lab. We have a whole list of tests that it has to go through. Depending upon whether you're using it to grow crop like your garden or to grow crops for human consumption, there's a higher level of quality that you need to reach. If you're just land applying it for silviculture, for tree farms or something like that, where there aren't people eating what's growing there, then you can get away with fewer tests. But we're always testing for heavy metals, pathogens, sharps, those kinds of things. Yeah.
It's interesting, very comparable to compost testing.
So we started with the U.S. Compost Council's STA process. We started with that. We started with some standards that are in Europe, and none of them really fit the U.S. biogas market. And so we kind of merged that all together. We kind of went through a 2-year process with EPA and the Composting Council and a bunch of other people. So it is, if you're familiar with the Composting Council's STA programs, their seal of testing assurance, their like quality seal for compost, you would find it to be very familiar. But it's slightly different material.
And then last question, what are some of the challenges you see with a food-only digester?
It's really just complexity. It's complexity because the variety of feeds, manure is incredibly homogeneous. Wastewater sludge is incredibly homogeneous. Food waste is incredibly variable. And so with that variability, you have to be able to manage it well. So that means you need to have enough equipment to be able to take in a variety of materials. Maybe it's going to be packaged, maybe it's not. Maybe it's going to be really acidic or really alkaline, and you need to have your extra tank to be able to buffer that in. I'll skip ahead. I think this was one of the coolest projects. And do any of you guys know this facility? God, I'm so disappointed that it shut down. This facility, this is the Harvest Energy Garden. It was taking all kinds of food waste from the Disney resorts and all around. Disney was using the digested material to grow their flowers in their greenhouses. Talk about an awesome story. But if you see those pallets on the left there, that's $140 million of contraband honey. So the Customs and Immigration, I don't know, this was maybe like 2006, 2007. Anyway, they seized all this illegally imported honey. These people were bringing in honey from South America and rebottling them into honey bears and just making an apps. You can see there's actually not that much honey there, but if you know how much a little handheld honey bear of honey costs, it's a lot. And so if you try to fill up, that's $140 million of honey, but it was illegally imported. And so they seized it. And one of the court ordered details was that it had to be destroyed. And so how do you destroy all that honey? So they took it to the biogas system. Perfect. But it's like nitroglycerin for biogas. So yeah, it took them months to dispose of all that because you did never want to put like too much into it at one time. So the challenges are like dealing with like how do you like that ends up being a manual process. Like, is there a machine that this facility has to cut that open and pour it? No, someone has to like open it up, and then they have to get a forklift and find the right way to like tip it into a tank, and it's just the complexity of it. But what's going to happen is, and we've seen this happen, the Danish industry is really mature compared to ours. Denmark's the state is a country the size of South Carolina, and Germany's industry is really mature. Denmark will have one facility that's like 6 times bigger than this, and they'll be taking in feedstock from 100 different sources almost every day. And they found a way to standardize the delivery of manure and food waste and all these kinds of things. They even have, I don't think I have a picture of it, they even have trucks that have a robotic arm where they come up and instead of like unloading, or yes, I showed you the truck that basically just has a hose that hooked up. These trucks have a robotic arm, and then you basically just have a funnel in it. And the robotic arm, the driver doesn't even have to leave the truck. They just take their joystick and they move the arm that's on top of the truck, they move it over and stick it in the funnel, and then the whole thing unloads in like 2 or 3 minutes. And then they fill up with digestate and take off in another 2 or 3 minutes, and it's super quick. They're handling lots of material, but we don't have that standardization here. So as more systems get built, we will develop that as an industry. But we're like, I feel like we're in the teenage years of the biogas industry. We've got some growth. We've done a lot, but there's a lot more to go.
Sorry, one last question.
Sure.
roughly, how long does it take to construct a facility of this magnitude and get operational?
1 to 2 years.
What's that?
1 to 2 years. The biggest variable is permitting. It's like local stuff. It's not the actual construction, the actual design, that doesn't take very long. It's like, and you guys would probably know this better than anyone, right? You walk into your local office and you're like, hey, I want to build a biogas system. What permits do I need? And they're like, well, is that a recycling facility? And we're like, well, yes, but probably not the way you're thinking of it. Well, is it a landfill? Well, no. Is it a transfer station? Well, no, but I am kind of handling, you don't fit in. I don't know, maybe Florida's permitting process is more streamlined than most. Good, but we should have more systems here. But most places it's more complicated, so just getting through that and figuring out what permits you need, and then getting approval, figuring out if you're gonna put the biogas into the local pipeline, getting that approval from the utility commission. None of these things by themselves are difficult. And, like I said, we've got 2,500 systems around the country, but for some reason, in a lot of places, it still feels like you're building the first one that the country's ever seen before. So 1 to 2 years, yeah.
A question, I have a number of the feedstocks that you mentioned. This will reveal that I'm not the most knowledgeable questioner on this one, but some of the digestate, some of the feedstocks are known to have forever chemicals, PFAS, in them. To what extent is that an issue of various subcomponents of biogas manufacturers, and what's being done to sort of test and understand whether, what comes out on the back end that's not the gas, does that still have PFAS in it?
So my relatively rudimentary understanding of PFAS is, so PFAS, forever chemicals, they're everywhere. You can't destroy them without combustion. So you have to combust something at some point. The best known way to deal with PFAS is, for biogas systems, is to pyrolyze or gasify the digested material, make biochar out of it. Then you get another product. It requires more equipment, which requires more capital costs, but that is the way to deal with it. And unless you get it up to the high temperatures that you get with gasification or combustion or something like that, my understanding is it doesn't actually get destroyed. And so it will continue to be forever.
Yeah, okay. No, thank you. This is getting a little off topic with food, but the gas that comes out of these systems, can you sort of clean that up and put it to higher and higher uses? Because I feel like I keep seeing the sustainable airline fuel as being an outcome of, some of these systems. What happens to the gas, and what are the different products that turns into, and how can you use all that?
So there's so many things you can do with it. I'm going to try to give you a universe, and I'm going to try to give you a simple way to look at it. So I'll go the other way. One of the simple ways to look at it is that the methane in the biogas is a hydrocarbon. So any way that you want to reconfigure carbons and hydrogens to make different fuels and do different things, you can do it. It's just a matter of capital costs and how much material you have. So we have biogas systems that are decarbonizing sustainable aviation fuel, ethanol, gasoline, diesel, methanol for shipping now, all kinds of different things. Most often what's done is your biogas is basically 60% methane and 40% CO2. And then there's like 1 or 2% of like other stuff in there. And you generally want to take out that 1 to 2%, but it's really methane and carbon dioxide. If you take out that carbon dioxide, you're basically left with pure methane. Then it's indistinguishable from conventional natural gas, except for it's been renewably produced. So it's just a methane molecule. And with that methane molecule, you can do anything that you can do with natural gas. You can make electricity. You can put it in the pipeline for heat. You can make sustainable aviation fuel. You can use it for the heat that you need to make ethanol, so that the carbon footprint of your ethanol is lower, and then you get to qualify for other programs for ethanol. Or in Europe, where there's programs for decarbonizing shipping fuel, you can decarbonize the shipping fuel enough by using renewable natural gas to qualify for other programs, which allows you to generate other revenue. So there's all kinds of things that you can do. And now people are even taking, I mentioned this a little bit earlier, but they're taking, since you're separating out the CO2, usually the CO2 is just vented, and it's vented, and even though carbon dioxide in the atmosphere isn't good, you've captured so much methane, which is 20 to 80 times worse than CO2. You've captured so much methane, you're still way ahead from a climate perspective. But if you could capture the CO2, now you're also going to have an even lower carbon footprint. And then if you use that carbon dioxide with renewable hydrogen, so let's say you've got a lot of wind like you have in North Dakota or in Texas, and you can't always use it because the transmission system is overloaded. You can make hydrogen while the wind's blowing instead of stopping the turbines from blowing. Combine that hydrogen with the carbon dioxide. They're doing this all over Denmark and Germany now, and you make new methane, or you make new methanol. So I could go on and on with different chemical permutations, but that's kind of this is again the blessing and the curse. The blessing is there's so many different things that you can do. The curse is it's not wind turbine spinny electric makey. Like that's really simple to understand. Like this is more complex.
John, since you mentioned PFAS, I'll just make a quick comment. I'm getting ready to head over to Orlando because we've got the PFAS forum right after this. And our opening session is on PFAS and biosolids. So for those of you who have an interest, come on over to Orlando. Any other questions? All right. Well, with that, thank you, Patrick. Great
Thank you.
presentation.
Thanks, everybody.
Just in closing, remember all the presentations you have seen, I'll shoot to PDF, get them out to everybody. Hopefully you'll see them by the end of this week. Along with the videos, we'll have that up on a YouTube channel. Last time I asked for you to turn in your evaluation sheets, just put them out on the front desk for me. And with that, everybody have a safe trip home. Thank you.